If you're wanting to find more peace in your life, you don't really need everyone to understand you. That's going to make your life more peaceful, just coming to that acceptance of that. This one is for my people who feel like they need to prove themselves all the time, or they need to be one up everyone in order to prove something. If you're wanting to find more peace in your life, you don't really need everyone to understand you. Welcome to the Body and Brew series, by the way. I have with me a sticky chai. It hasn't quite brewed yet, so I'm leaving the strainer in, and we're going to be sipping away and discussing what it feels like inside our bodies when we finally let go of that need to prove ourselves, that need to feel understood by other people in order to feel accepted. This is particularly a tough topic because often the people we want to feel approved by are the closest people around us, such as our partner, our family, our closest friends, all of our loved ones, essentially, even our big boss, if we are working for someone. And so when it comes to tackling that need to prove yourself, there's a time and place where that can be useful, as in if you're trying to climb a ladder, can be useful, such as proving to yourself that you can do something. But when you start to want to prove yourself to others, not for yourself, then it starts to become potentially hazardous. This is something that I've found for myself anyway, is that peace often begins when you stop over explaining yourself. And so that I feel like that part there is where it can become hazardous, where needing to prove yourself, to defend yourself, it's that part there. When you're having to over explain or having to defend yourself, we need to flag that. That's where it becomes hazardous. Where am I seeking validation right now? That's something you can ask yourself in any given moment throughout your day when you catch yourself explaining yourself or justifying the way you are being, the way you are doing, the things you are choosing to do in your day to day. When you catch yourself over explaining, because there's difference between explaining and over explaining. So when you catch yourself over explaining or needing to prove yourself, that's the question you can ask is, where am I seeking validation right now? Am I seeking to be validated by other people, to be approved by other people? Or should I really just be coming back to what I feel is right and what I want to be proud of for me? You got to back yourself and put yourself on the pedestal first and foremost above anyone else. I truly believe that, and that's something I've come to find or discover for myself and experience for myself over the last 5 years. Going from my 20s into my 30s was a big clean out and overhaul of relationships and relationship dynamics that just weren't healthy. And at the end of the day, not everyone is supposed to understand your path. We're all walking different paths and experiencing our own healing journeys, our own levels of our awareness. They're at different levels. And, you can vibrate with someone on a very similar frequency, on the same frequency even, but you still have your own unique way of being, your own unique essence in this world. That's the whole point of being connected to the collective, connected to the universe, connected to God. Insert whatever higher power it is that you believe in, or not even necessarily higher power, but collective power that you believe in. We are all connected to that, but we're also here in this earth vessel for a reason. And I believe it's so that we can be uniquely expressive and uniquely experience the world in the way that we are born to experience it. And so if we were born with that unique essence, why will we dim that or feel like we have to defend that simply to be accepted or approved or to feel validated by someone? When you start to tune into backing yourself, putting yourself on a pedestal, not needing validation or acceptance from anyone else but yourself, especially if you're the type of person who knows that they have good intent in the world and that they mean well and ultimately would never intend to hurt anyone. You don't need to explain yourself. It's It's very different to someone out there who is acting from a hurt place and out there to hurt people intentionally because they're hurting, hurt people hurt people. But even then, like, again, they're on their own timeline. They have their own unique experience of the world. And who are we to judge? Who are we to need an explanation from them? Because then that would just make us just as bad as them, having to over-explain ourselves in order to feel accepted by them or understood by them. It's not going to match because you're on different frequencies anyway, but also it's like hypocritical to judge someone and feel the need to, I guess, feel their explanation and to really understand their explanation, to really put that on someone. It's like you could also look at that as a mirror. It's like, what am I over explaining or feeling judged by or feeling like I need to prove myself with? What's the situation there? And so judgment's another thing that you could pick up on, is like if you feel yourself over explaining or catch yourself over explaining, but also if you catch yourself judging or needing hyper explained details in order to understand someone, in order to approve them. Use that as your mirror to reflect. Like, you can ask, where am I seeking validation right now? You can also ask, where in my life, with whom in my life am I feeling like I need to understand them more in order to accept them? Because that's that mirror there. That's that exact mirror where it becomes a projection in a way. And so that's another thing that we can just explore and think about when it comes to over explaining ourselves and feeling that need to prove. But I want to flip this back around and talk about how peaceful it is to not exist in those states. And that's why I'm giving you those somatic cues of like, where am I seeking validation right now, or the need to prove myself to someone? Where am I catching myself judging someone or needing to understand them in order to accept them? The reason it's useful to work through these things, this theme of needing to be understood, needing to be validated, and how that's projected and mirrored back in how we accept and perceive other people. The reason it's useful to go down that route and explore that for ourselves and heal that for ourselves is because it really does create peace, in the sense that you have so much more time and space and energy when you're not in your head thinking about all those things. When you're not in your head wondering, like social anxiety is a good example. You're not in your head wondering like, oh, did I really just say that? Should I have said that? Did those people at that event like me? Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned that. They're going to hate me forever now. Like, that social anxiety that comes up with people when they're looking for that external validation and worried about people, it's like there's so much energy wasted. Really, it is wasted energy worrying about what people think. And I got really passionate in one of my podcast episodes recently. It was the burnout one. Why do females burn out different? And I was talking about how, like, we shouldn't give a we really shouldn't. We shouldn't give a about what people think. If it's going to bring us more peace and create the space for us to be a better person for ourselves, and also to hold space for loved ones around us in a better way, like if we're bettering ourselves, then who gives a what people think? And even if it doesn't better ourselves and we just need to do it and they're judging, who gives a what people think? We're all on our own timelines, and it's what makes us unique. And I feel like that's something to honor over having to approve and accept someone, or feel approved and accepted by someone. And so that's why I feel like it's really important to explore this for ourselves. Who am I trying to convince? What do I know to be true for myself? And you can actually bring in a somatic practice with this here, is like, place your hand on your throat, soften your jaw, let each exhale drop you into this space of the throat. And just use this moment here as you tune into this throat chakra, the area of self-expression. Take a moment to pause here before you express, before you go explaining yourself today. And if the silence feels unsafe for you, as in the silent pauses where you catch yourself going to over-explain and you feel like you shouldn't need to, those silent pauses, just start with shortening the expressions. So shorten the ways in which you explain yourself. You don't have to completely stop explaining yourself altogether. Sometimes it's warranted to explain yourself. Like, for example, when I'm with my partner and he wants to understand why I do something so that he's not frustrated and walking around resenting me, I'll explain myself, but I don't over-explain myself. And if it gets to that point, I'll go, I shouldn't have to justify why I am the way I am, or I shouldn't have to justify and over-explain this just so you can accept me. And the same goes for him. Like, he shouldn't have to over-explain himself in order for me to accept him. But it's creating that understanding and that unique acceptance of each other, that it can be useful to understand someone by having them explain to you what they're feeling, what they're experiencing. And I feel like that's what crystal clear communication really is, especially when it comes to loved ones, but it's that over explanation. If I said no to something and I don't want to express why, then I don't need to over explain just because it makes someone else uncomfortable. You can actually say, I'm sorry that that makes you uncomfortable, but I'm just not in a place to explain that right now. And I would love for you to be accepting of that. Invite in that acceptance and that clarity. And also you can assert your boundaries. You don't need to over explain anything. And so you can start there. If silence and just saying outright no and walking away feels too harsh for you, or you're just not comfortable getting to that level, just start with explaining yourself more shortly, more precisely, more concisely, and having that discernment, dropping back into your throat space, using that somatic cue, tuning in, asking yourself how you would like to express this before you have a conversation with someone, for example. That can be really useful in impacting the ways in which you express yourself. And it can also help you tune into what it is you feel like find that discernment of what it is you do wish to share and what you don't wish to share. So really it's about deepening self-trust at the end of the day. But I don't know, let me know what you think about expression and the need to explain yourself or prove yourself. Do you feel like there's a time and place, and if so, when? And if you have any other thoughts that have come up while I've been discussing this with you guys, pop them in the comments below. That's what the Body and Brew series is all about. It's about opening up the discussion around certain themes and topics, and I love interacting in the comment section. I get really excited when I see the comment section. So pop your questions, your queries, your shares, your expressions all below, and we'll get chatting. I'll see you next time.